Hi, I'm Jeff, and this is Lithic Metals. Welcome to the lab. I'm all set up here to mix up a small batch of silver nitrate. You see on the left I have 2 beakers and a small Pyrex dish. In the dish I have 210 grams of cemented silver, cemented out from the last batch of silver crystals that I produced. When you're done with that process, you're left with your electrolyte, and I cemented that out with some copper. Since you do cement it out with copper, there could be some impurities, the copper impurities. We'll know as this silver digests. We'll be able to tell how pure it is by the color of the silver nitrate. If it stays nice and white, nice and clear, we'll know that silver was pretty pure. If it starts to tinge blue to green, we'll know that we have higher levels of impurities than I was hoping for. So we'll see. But I'm pretty certain that our silver nitrate's going to remain pretty clear. Well, in the smaller beaker, you see it has a slightly yellow tinge. I have about approximately 250 mLs of nitric acid. To digest 210 grams of silver, I'm going to need approximately 252 mLs. Hopefully we can do it a little less. If there's no copper in there, or very little copper in there, I won't have to worry about adding extra. And then you'll see in the bigger beaker, I have about 400 mLs of distilled water. I'm going to want in this process at least 250 mLs of water in this process, but I'm going to start out by adding about 300 and then save the rest to rehydrate our solution as we go. So I'm going to open up the hood. It's going to get kind of loud, but we'll go through everything and get started here. Okay, here's our cemented silver. Hopefully we can focus on that all right. It came out looking real nice. Tiny little crystals. If you look under the magnifying glass, it's almost fibrous. It almost looks like little hairs. So let's add this to our beaker. Next we're going to add the water. You never want to add your acid first. Stick with the water. So you're diluting the acid as you go. Some acids react to water, so you might pour a few drips into it and it splatters back at you. So always add your water first. I'm going to put in about 300 mLs. It's sitting pretty heavy at the bottom. The lighting isn't the greatest, but there's a good layer of silver here. It's not like it floats too much. Next we're going to add I'm going to start by just adding, well, let's start by adding about 50 mLs of nitric acid. And we'll get our solution warmed up and we can go from there. We're going to start off by adding large increments of acid, but towards the end we're going to see that we're going to be a little bit more conservative. Instant reaction. That was about 50 mLs right there. See some slight fuming. Just let this get started. Turn on our heat. Close the hood here. We'll give that a few moments to react. Alright, now that we've given it a couple minutes, we can see that we're not having any catastrophic reaction here. I think it's safe to add a little bit more nitric as it warms up. I have the heat on a medium low, so it's not gonna get too hot too fast. So we'll add a little bit more nitric, get the reaction a little more vigorous here, and go from there. Alright, I added about another 40 to 50 mLs. See, that gave it a little extra life. Give that a few minutes and watch the reaction. Okay, our reaction looks like it's going slow and steady. It's going to take a few more minutes to heat up. So why don't we check back in a few minutes and we'll see if we need to add any more nitric or adjust the temperature. Solution a few minutes here to work. I want to take a quick temperature check and we can add a bit more nitric. Right now. I'm going to turn the heat up just a touch. And we'll add another 50 or so ml of nitric acid. work. Keep an eye on it for a minute. Alright, looks like we're going to maintain a moderate reaction here. I thought perhaps I should let you know what we're shooting for. What I want to end up with here is approximately 1.4 liters of silver nitrate. A small batch. I'm planning on doing a small silver cell experiment. I don't need a lot of solution, or I should say electrolyte. Under 1.5 liters. So yeah, 1.4 liters is what we're shooting for. And I want at least 140 grams per liter of silver in our solution. So with the math that I calculated, the weight of the 210 grams of silver that I added into this batch, we're going to end up with close to 150 grams per liter. Although I'm going to, as the reaction starts to dwindle, I'm not going to just keep adding nitric until it all disappears, and because then I still have too much nitric in there and I'll have to add more silver. So I'm going to stop the reaction when there's just a few particles, just a little bit of the remaining silver left. And I'll filter that off and clean it up and save that for something else. So that's what we're shooting for. We're shooting for 1.4 liters of silver nitrate. Once this is all dissolved, we won't have 1.5 liters of material. We're going to have much less. So when this is all done and filtered, then I'll be able to add additional distilled water to get it up to the volume and concentration that we need. Alright, I guess we can pause this for a minute here and let it do its thing for 15-20 minutes, and we'll check back. Alright, our reaction is still pretty moderate. I want to check the temperature here quick and maybe bump that up a little. We'll see what we have. We have 125 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm going to raise the temperature just a bit. I'm going to let that heat up before I add any more nitric acid. Alright, as you can no doubt see, our reaction is dwindling down. So I think it's time to check the temperature, and we'll be adding a bit more nitric acid. We still have a ways to go here. We're at 140 degrees Fahrenheit. once again, our reaction is dwindling. So I'm gonna take this opportunity to hydrate our solution with a bit more distilled water and add some more nitric acid. Touch more. Alright, we're back down to 110 degrees, so we'll let that warm back up. Okay, well, we have a couple things here. Basically, all of our silver is digested into solution. And we still have about 50 mLs of nitric acid left. So I'm really surprised at how proficient the approximately 200 mLs of nitric acid was in this solution. I mentioned earlier that I was going to stop adding nitric acid when there was still a bit of silver left in solution, so I know that I didn't have any free nitric floating around. So that's one thing. I'm going to add additional cemented silver into the solution, and I want to make sure that we use up all the free nitrates. The second issue is the color of the solution. Now it's going to get diluted. Nearly another liter of distilled water is going to go into solution. So it's going to end up being a lot lighter than it is right now. However, it is darker than I predicted that it would be. A lot more copper dropped with the silver when I precipitated it out. It's a little disappointing, but it's still going to work for the process that I have. The solution is very pregnant. It'll work great, but I'm guessing that with the color, I'm guessing that the cement silver that I've been adding is closer to probably 98% pure. Alright, well, enough chit chat. Let's add a bit more silver. I weighed up an additional 10 grams and we'll see what that does. And if we have to add more, we will. Cover up, let that work. I think I'm gonna end up weighing up some more silver. Let's close the hood here and keep an eye on it. Alright, here we are again. Our silver has completely dissolved. So we're going to continue adding more cemented silver into our solution until we use up the free nitrate. We have another 10 grams. Reaction isn't quite as vigorous as our last edition of silver, so we're working it down. We'll let that do its thing, and in the meantime I am going to redo my math. Alright, our reaction has finally stopped. I have another 5 grams of silver prepared. However, our reaction has come to a halt, and we do still have a good gram of silver at the bottom with a few miscellaneous particles. So I am going to turn off the heat, add a bit more distilled water, let this cool down, and get prepared to filter it. As I was talking about earlier, we can judge the purity of the cemented silver that we started with by looking at the color of the solution that we have left over. Here is some previous silver nitrate that I made a few batches ago, and you see how clear it is. This is 126 grams per liter. But now if what we started instead of with precipitated silver, if we would have started with silver crystal to make our solution, this is what we would have ended up with. But for this experiment coming up, I think this will be sufficient. And also, we are going to be diluting it quite a bit here. I think that'd be all right. I'm gonna get this up to about 1,400 ml. That'll give us our 1.4 liters that we need. Going to stir this up real well. There is a density difference in between the distilled water and the silver nitrate. I don't have to go overboard on the stirring. It's gonna get mixed up. It's gonna end up being poured, actually bottled here shortly, and stored while I prepare my next experiment. So we can see here, the color lightened up a little bit once we diluted it with the proper amount of distilled water to get the amount we need. This is what it would look like if we started with silver crystal, pure silver. And here, this solution shows our impurities that were dropped with the silver when it was precipitated out of solution with copper. So it has just a bit of copper hanging in there as well. Alright. So that does it. We added a little extra silver, so we're doing good. Did the math, we're still just a bit over 140 grams of silver per liter. And we'll have a little bit extra to rehydrate the solution if it ends up needing it. So, all right, well, that should wrap it up. I'm gonna let this settle for a little bit here and bottle it up, put it in the locker, and we'll be prepared with our electrolyte for my next mini silver cell experiment. I'm gonna run just a small batch in a vessel that's quite a bit smaller than what I'm used to. It'll go great, but I'm looking forward to it, and we'll be recording that, and I'll put that video up shortly as well. Alright, well, thanks for joining me on this experiment here, and hope you enjoyed it. Thanks.